Baruch Hashem is Kesubos Daf Samach Kesubos 60. We're going to start on top of 60A, not 68, 60A, 60A. So the Gemara says, so we had said in the Mishnah, we had said in the Gemara yesterday's daf that we can nurse the baby, that if the mother doesn't want to nurse the baby, we force her to nurse the baby if the baby recognizes the mother. Meaning to say, if the baby recognizes the mother, then even if she's divorced from her husband, the husband can force her to nurse it and he pays her. So the Gemara asked the question, Ad Kama. Gemara says, at what age will the baby recognize the mother, so the mother's milk, so we can force him to nurse? So Amar Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar Rav Shlosha Chadashim. Once the baby's reached his 3 months, he can recognize the mother and forcibly nurse him. And we can force her to nurse him. Shmuel Amar Shloshim Yom. Shmuel says 30 days. Rabbi Yitzchak says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Chamishim Yom. He says 50 days. Amar Rav Shimi bar Abaye. Halacha Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rav Shimi bar Abaye says that the law is like Rabbi Yitzchak in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, i.e., that it is 50 days. So Gemara says Bishlam Rav Rabbi Yochanan makes sense. Rabbi Yochanan says 50 days and Rav says 3 months. That makes sense. Kol chad v'chad ki chorpei. Every single one is saying, oh, that's what age the baby gets his sharpness. Can you really have a baby that's at 30 days recognizes only its mother's milk? He said, well, he says, don't repeat all these, don't listen to all these things that are said in the name of Shmuel. This is actually what Shmuel said. Really, Shmuel said, as long as the baby recognizes the mother, that's going to be sufficient to force her to nurse him. But so I mean, say it's dependent upon the kid. So how do you test it? You do a lineup. There was a woman who came in front of Shmuel. Rav Dimi bar Yosef zil badka. So he said to Rav Dimi bar Yosef, go check to see if the baby recognized her. She didn't want to nurse. He said, go check her to see if the baby will want to nurse from her. What did they do? Usva bedara dinashi. They put this woman in a row of women, a lineup. The shaka lebrei. They took her son, and they passed the son on over in front of all the women. Kimata legabas. When he passed her, havas. The baby lifted up the eyes like, that's my mama. So she lowered her eyes, like pretending so he wouldn't see her. So I guess either Shmuel or Abdimi bar Yosef said, Netofe necha, pick your face up. Kum, get up, dari brech, nurse your son. Take your son and nurse him. Summa manayada. Let's say the baby was blind. How would he know? Well, he could smell either her or smell the milk, or he could taste the milk, or taste the milk. Tan Rabbana Yonik Tinok. How long should a baby nurse for? Yeah, this is a question that they debate to this day. Yonik Tinok. So the Talmud says you should nurse until 24 months. From that point on, it's like it's repulsive. Don't do it. That's the position of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says, you can even nurse until 4 or 5 years old. But if he stops nursing for a period of time, if he stops nursing after 24 months, the chazar, and then he goes back to nursing, not because he stops because of an illness, but because he stops for whatever reason. Then choser, then the chazer kiyonik sheketz, and it's like he's nursing from something disgusting, and he shouldn't do it. So then the Talmud says as follows: Amar Marmikan ve'elach kiyonik sheketz. After 24 months, it's like you're nursing from something repulsive, and you shouldn't do it. There are many. Is this really the case? We're going to say now that mother's milk is not repulsive even after 24 months, because it says I might think that the milk of the one who walks on 2 legs, i.e. the mother, is not kosher. I might think that vidinu, and this is logical, just like an animal ma behema shekalta b'maga Just like an animal, that if you touch, just like an animal, that if you touch the animal while it's alive, you can't become tamei. But nevertheless, with respect to its milk, we say that its milk is not kosher if it's a non-kosher animal. Adam, Sheikh Marta B'mago, a person who can transmit ritual impurity while they're alive. Eino din shetachmir b'chalbo, for sure their milk should be not kosher. Talmud Omer es hagamal ki malei girahu. The camel, because it is not kosher because it chews its cud, it does not have split hooves. Who tamei? The camel is tamei. Ve'ein chalav ma'acheshtayim tamei el tahor. But the camel is tamei. But the milk of so we say who tamei? The camel is tamei. Ve'ein chalav ma'acheshtayim tamei. But the milk of the one who walks on two legs is not tamei, but it's kosher. I might think, I might think, okay, milk I'm going to exclude because by a kosher animal, milk is kosher. So therefore, by a human being, the milk will be kosher. But the blood of a human being, maybe I'll say that will be non-kosher. Because all animal blood is non-kosher. Even if a cow, their blood is not kosher. The blood of an animal is not kosher, but the blood of a human being is actually kosher. Rav Shesha said, "I feel mitzvahs prisha invo." Even rabbinically, there's no prohibition to suck the animal, to suck the blood of a human being. What does that mean? Even I feel prisha ein bo the midiraisa shari, and biblically speaking, it's permitted. The rabbanan nami lo gazer bo, and the rabbis also didn't make a prohibition against it. So let's say what this refers to, most say, is let's say you have some blood in your mouth, you can suck it down. But it's a question whether there's blood on your hand. Can you suck that? That's a different question. But anyway, we see from here. So we see from here that after 24 months, the blood of a human being is not disgusting. So the Gemara says, that if you stop nursing, then it's disgusting for you to nurse again. But if you didn't stop, then you can keep nursing. And it's not going to be prohibited. So. Okay. So the Gemara says, so that's a good question. It doesn't specify exactly. Doesn't say exactly, but that's, I guess, what the post will do. It's usually, I think the Gemara says 3 days, but it doesn't say exactly here. So the Gemara says, and the opposite is with respect to blood, meaning to say that blood, once it leaves the body, that's where it's going to be rabbinically prohibited. The midiparish asur midirabanan. The michaf bedam behema v'asal memar dam behema achal. Because what the concern is, you might, once it leaves your body, if you have your human blood in a cup, you might come to think it's animal blood, and you say, "Oh, I could see this rabbi is drinking the human blood. Maybe he's also going to drink the animal blood." So therefore, the human blood, once it leaves the body, then you can't. Then rabbinically we say you can't eat it. That's why we say v'chilufa b'dam. K'netanya dam shal gabe kikar. Let's say you have blood on a loaf of bread. Goro, you scrape off the blood v'ocho, and then you can eat it because it's no longer on the bread. But shebein hashirinayim motzatzo ve'eno choshesh. The blood that's between the teeth, you could suck it down, and you don't have to be concerned. Amar Mar Rabbi Yeshua Omer afilu arba v'chamish shanim. So we learned that Rabbi Yeshua said you can nurse even up to 4 and 5 years old, and it's not disgusting. But Tanya Rabbi Yeshua Omer afilu chavilu aso al kseifo. But then we have a different source. Rabbi Yeshua says you can nurse even if the baby's walking around carrying his knapsack. He can still nurse him. So the Gemara says, no, that's the time the baby will carry his knapsack. 4 and 5 years old, they could carry it. It's the same time. I'm Rabbi Yosef Alachak Rabbi Yeshua. So the ones like Rabbi Yeshua, you can nurse the baby up until 4 or 5 years old, no problems.
What year was this?
The Talmud was written maybe almost 2,000 years ago, but not exactly. We don't have exact date. They didn't put it on, but this is almost 2,000 years ago. So now we say, Tanya, Rabbi, this is my name, Rabbi Mirenus. He's the rabbi from Rhinus.
Yeah.
The rabbi from Rhinus taught, Gonech, Yonech Chalav b'Shabbos. Goneach, if there's a person who's sick, he's groaning, he's sick. Yonech Chalav b'Shabbos. He's able to nurse straight from the cow, straight from the calf on Shabbos. My timer. Yonik mefarek koachar yad. Because even though there's a concern about nursing, it's one of the prohibitions to like draw the milk from the animal on Shabbos. But if you nurse directly from the if you nurse directly from the cow's udder, then it's like you're doing it kil achar yad, with course shinoi. It's not the normal way, and it's going to be permitted. Makom tzara, and since he's in pain, lo gazru rabbanan. So the rabbis didn't make such a decree. So therefore, that's going to be allowed. Otherwise, Rashi says, in general, it would be a prohibition of dash, which is one of the 39 prohibitions, which is you remove something from the place where it grew, so that would be the prohibition of dash. So the Gemara says as follows: Amar Rav Yosef halacha Rabbi Mirinus. He says the law is like Rabbi Mirinus, that the person who's sick can nurse from the animal on Shabbos. Tanya Nachum Ishkaya Omer Tzinor. Let's say you have like a pipe that's going out from your roof. Sha'olubo kashkashin, that it has on it. Let's say Rashi says you have, let's say, straw or grass that are stopping it, and you stop the flow, and so then therefore the water runs out and goes all over your place. It's going into your house. You have basically a leak on Shabbos because of your gutters. So Tinor Shalabo Kashkashin Mimachin Baraglo. You can press it down, Bitsina. You could do it in a way. You could discreetly press it down on Shabbos. You don't have to be concerned that you're violating the Shabbos. My time. What's the reason? Because mitakin kalachar yadu. Yeah, you're fixing the utensil, but you're doing it in the unusual manner. So that's a rabbinic prohibition only. Ubimakom seidan, since otherwise you're going to lose a lot of money because all your fancy couches, which you've been waiting for 6 months because of supply chain issues. Well, God's rabban, and the rabbis didn't make a decree upon it, and therefore it says Rav Yosef halacha can Nachum Mishkalia. The law is like Nachum Mishkalia. Says the Talmud. Let's say he left. Let's say he stopped nursing after 24 months. The baby stopped nursing after 24 months, and then he changed his mind after a while, and he came back. We're going to address Shia's question: how long is stopping? And it's like yonik shekets. It's like you're nursing from a something repulsive. And now we have Shia's question: the kama, what is considered to be stopping from nursing? So Amarav Yehuda Bar Chaviva Amar Shmuel Shlosha Yamim, 3 days. Ika Dutani Rav Yehuda Bar Chaviva Kamei Shmuel Shlosha Yamim, 3 days. Tanu Rabbana Meinekes Shemeis Bala Betoch Esrim Ve'arba Chodesh. So let's say you have a woman who's nursing, whose husband dies within the 24 months that she's nursing. Harezu Osis Ares. She's not allowed to become betrothed to somebody else, and she's not allowed to marry somebody else until the top of 60b ad esrim v'arba chodesh, until 24 months. What's the reasoning? Rashi says we're concerned that maybe she's going to become pregnant, and therefore she's going to have to wean her son, and then the father, her new husband, who's not the father of the baby, he's not going to buy food for the kid, for the new kid. He's only going to buy for his own kid. So therefore, we don't let her get married for 24 months or even engage her. Rabbi Yehuda matir. Rabbi Yehuda allows it by 18 months. So this is real. This is how like child custody, child support issues which we face till this day. Amar Rabbi Nazar Bar Yosef, Hein Divrei Beis Shammai. So Hein Divrei Beis Hillel. So Rabbi Nazar Bar Yosef says this position of Rabbi Meir goes even according to Beis Shammai, who we said earlier we don't force the woman to nurse, and this position of Rabbi Yehuda can even go according to the position of Beis Hillel, who says we do force the woman to nurse. So Hein Divrei Beis Shammai, Hein Divrei Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai omrim 10 ve'arba chodesh, Beis Hillel omrim 18 chodesh. Beis Shammai says that so that Beis Shammai can say that you need to wait 24 months, like Rabbi Meir, and Beis Hillel says that you can need to wait 18 months, like Rabbi Yehuda. And Amar Shimon Gamliel, Ani Achriya, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, I'll decide. According to the one who says that you have to wait 24 months, that she has to wait 24 months before getting betrothed or engaged, I say that according to what it says 24 months, she could actually get married at 21 months because she's not going to show, even if she gets pregnant from the wedding night, she's not going to show for another 3 months. And that's when the milk will dry up, and then she'll stop nursing. So it's really 21 months. And I'll say, and says Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, according to the one who says 18 months, it's really from 15 months. Because because the milk doesn't become sour. They used to call the milk of the nursing of the pregnant woman sour. Really, today we say the milk could dry up. That's the big concern today. But they used to call it nechar, and then it would go sour. So then it takes 3 months. So Amar Ula halachak Rabbi Yehuda Amar Mar Ukva. He says the law is like Rabbi Yehuda, who says 18 months, that she can't get betrothed or engaged for 18 months. Why? Because there Amar Mar Ukva, we hiti Rabbi Chanina laseis la'achar chamesh eser chodesh. That it was allowed for me, Rabbi Chanina allowed to me to get married after 15 months, meaning to say after 15 months, because the milk wouldn't dry up for another 3 months. And so therefore, that's like Rabbi Yehuda. So therefore, I was allowed to marry such a widow 15 months after her husband died. So Abaye, sharecropper, came in front of Abaye. He says, can I become betrothed to this woman after 15 months? He says, first of all, the law is not like Rabbi Meir in this case, because Rabbi Meir says 24 months, and Rabbi Yehuda says 18 months. And Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, the law is like Beis Hillel, and we said Beis Hillel is like Rabbi Yehuda, and we said that Beis Hillel is the one who allows it after 15 months. And furthermore, Amar Ula halachak Rabbi Yehuda, and third, Ula said the law is like Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Mar Ukva, we hiti Rabbi Chanina says chamisha chodesh, and you're even really allowed to get married after Rabbi Chanina said after 15 months, because the milk's not going to dry up for another 3 months. The kol shkein da'at, we already said you don't even want to marry her, you just want to become betrothed. And so for sure she's not going to get pregnant yet. So this is what Abaye said to a sharecropper. He said, no problem. The sharecropper comes to Abaye and says, can I marry this widow? She became a widow 15 months ago and she's nursing. No problem. No problem, he says. No problem. I mean, she had a baby 15 months ago and now she's a widow. Can I marry her? Abaye's like, give you so many reasons. The law is like Rabbi Yehuda, the law is not like Rabbi Meir. And furthermore, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can even get married 3 months beforehand, so it's 15 months. No problem. We have another teaching, the law is like Rabbi Yehuda. So, but then Abaye goes to visit his Rebbe, Yosel coming to Rabbi Yosef. Now, throughout the whole Shas, you see almost a dozen times in every Masechta, Rabbi Yosef, Abaye's Rebbe would say something, and Abaye would say, but you taught us differently. And Abaye would always be correcting Rabbi Yosef. And Rabbi Yosef was his Rebbe. But Yosel coming to Rabbi Yosef, when he came in front of Rabbi Yosef and told him what happened, he said, no. He said, Amarei. So Rabbi Yosef said to Abaye, Rabbi Shmuel Damar Travayo, Sricha Hamden Arbam Va'asram Chodesh, Chutz Miyom Shenoah, Bova Chutz Miyom Shenis Arso. He said, you have to wait 24 months minus 2 days. You don't have to count the day that he was born. That doesn't count as part of the 24 months. And also the day that she became betrothed. Meaning to say you have to wait 24 months, not 15 months, like you said. Abai said, oh my gosh, Rat Basre, Slasa Parseh. He ran after his sharecropper 3 parsecs. Barmele Parsa Bachawa. And some say he ran after him 1 parsa in the sand, which is very hard to run in the sand. You ever try jogging in the sand, Jonathan? It's very hard. Much harder than playing tennis. And Abaye was not even able to catch him. He wasn't able to catch his sharecropper. Amar Abaye realized he made a big mistake and he didn't stop his sharecropper. His sharecropper actually married this girl. He says, oh, yeah. Hi, Milsa, the Amar Rabbanan, a few biasa bekutcha, wishri inchi b'makom rabbi. He says, this is what we say. We learn from here that this is what the rabbis say, even biasa bekutcha. Rashi's explanation is the starker than Tosfos says. Rashi says it means even if you have an egg in kutcha is milk, like this milk dish. You have an egg in a milk dish, and somebody asks you, is the egg in the milk kosher? Even that, which is such an obvious question, you're not supposed to paskin in a place where your Rebbe is. I feel biasa de kutcha. The person shouldn't allow in a place where his Rebbe. Not because it looks like you're chutzpahdik. She says the word chutzpah, not because it looks like you're arrogant, but rather because you're not going to be successful. Because if it's your Rebbe is there, you're not supposed to give a psak in front of the Rebbe. And so he says even something so simple. Rashi is saying it's so simple as like an egg in milk, which everybody knows is kosher. Tosfos says it's a little bit more complicated question, slightly more complicated, not as simple as an egg and milk. But the basic point is that this is a basic teaching that if the Rebbe is there, you're not supposed to give a psak. You're supposed to keep your mouth quiet when you're in the presence of your Rebbe. Even if it's a basic, simple question, you're not supposed to answer. And Reb Chaim Shmuel Levitt says the reason why you're not going to it's not only out of respect for the teacher, but you're not going to give the right answer, says Reb Chaim Shmuel Levitt, because basically the Rebbe is one step closer to the Masorah because he's 1 generation earlier, and so therefore part of the Masorah is that you have to listen to the Masorah. So Abaye made this fundamental mistake, even though Abaye throughout the Talmud was often sharper than Rav Yosef, certainly when Rav Yosef became older. Nevertheless, he made a fundamental mistake. He says he says, I knew this teaching of Rav and Shmuel. I knew it already. And still he wasn't successful. He wasn't able to teach it. Because he should have kept his mouth shut at that moment. That's why he made this fundamental mistake. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Nasna binala lemenekas o gemalaso o meis muteras l'nasim. Okay, that which we say, yes, Reb Harold, yeah.
There's something implicit in this discussion also, is what I call a concept of finality, which is when a rabbi makes a decision, that's the decision. And so, he tries to run after, but even if he caught him, I don't know. So, or there has to be at least some sense of the finality.
No, it's a very good point because it's a very, very, very good point because, okay, let's say he ran after him. He didn't catch him. What do you mean he didn't catch him? So let's say he got married, but they could get divorced. He could force a divorce. And then if he was a Kohen, he couldn't remarry. But what do you mean? Or they could have waited. They could have just did the betrothal. They could say, wait. But the point is, no, once you gave this ruling and they relied upon it, then it's like we had this pressure. The court gave its ruling. They're not supposed to reverse it. But it's a very good question. It's a very good point about this here.
We had earlier in Kesubos examples of, there's rabbinically prohibited marriage, but they get married, but they're still married or not.
Right. So that's even the case. Like if a person marries, let's say for mamzeres, where they're still married, and it's a question whether or not we force them to get divorced there. But you're right, there are cases where there's marriage. Once they're married, they stay married. That the marriage is binding. The marriage is totally. It's very, very, very good. But this is much less than that. This is just a rabbinic decree, but very, very good points that Harold is making. So then the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, Nasna benal nekas. Excuse me, let's say she gave her son let's say, so she wants to get married, but she say, no, you can't, because who's going to nurse the baby? But she says, let's say I hired a wet nurse. Oh, Gemalasa, or the baby's weaned. The baby's weaned after a year. Oh, May. So let's say the baby's dead. So under those circumstances, she's allowed to get married immediately. So they said, okay, this is the brisa. Let's paskin like it. Let's follow it. So then there was a grandma there, and she said, she said to them, actually, the woman's voice, not so common. She's correcting the rabbis. She says, I actually had this happen to me. Rav Nachman said, I can't get married yet. Rav Nachman allowed the people from his, Rav Nachman was the son-in-law of the Reish Galusa. He was the Av Bezdin, and he was the son-in-law of the Reish Galusa. Reish Galusa was like the prince of the community. Then Rav Nachman allowed the women of the house of the Reish Galusa to go and get married after they hired a nurse to nurse their baby. So the Gemara says, no, Shani be Reish Galusa, the Hadri Bahu. No. The contractor, and when the Reish Galusa hires you, you don't have to worry that they're going to renege on the deal, because he was very powerful. So therefore, the Reish Galusa, if they hired a wet nurse, they said she's showing up the next day. But you're a son. But we don't know that they're going to show up for you this after. Like the Reish Galusa could say, yeah, I got a better job. The wet nurse could say, I got a better job. Amaru Papi, Va'aton lo tizbura mehadetanya. But so Papi says, so he says, and you don't you agree? Don't you think that this is prohibited? That this law, that woman cannot get married within the 24 months, even if she gave her son to a wet nurse? Why don't you learn out from the following brisa? Why don't you learn out from this? The Tanya Reisha Haisa Redufa Le'lecha Beis Avia. Let's say it's a woman who always used to go to her father's home, or she was in a fight with her husband. Her husband was in prison. Her husband was overseas. Let's say her husband was sick or old, or she was barren, or if she was old, it was Kena Ilonis, she couldn't have children, or she was a minor, or she had a miscarriage after her husband died. So therefore, she's certainly not pregnant. And she can't give birth because, let's say, she lost her womb. She always has. Everybody says she has to wait 3 months before getting married. That's Rabbi Meir. Whereas Rabbi Yossi Matir because why does Rabbi Meir say you have to wait 3 months? Generally speaking, wait 3 months to make sure we know who the father is. But in this case, he says we don't care. We don't draw a distinction. The law is you have to wait 3 months. Whereas Rabbi Yossi says, he says, we allow her to get married immediately because for sure she's not pregnant. He says, the law is like Rabbi Meir with all of his decrees. And we see from here that everybody needs to wait three months. And also over here, when they say you can't marry for 24 months before after you give birth to your child, so that the child will continue to eat, we shouldn't make any distinctions. And therefore, she should have to wait 24 months, even if she hired a wet nurse, or if the baby was weaned, or else even if the baby died. He said, Amrulay, Rav Papa said to Rav Huna bar Rav Yeshua, to Rav Papi, Rav Papa, Rav Huna bar Rav Yeshua said to Rav Papi, Lava Daiti. No, he said, I didn't realize that. The Gemara says, V'hilchasa, and the law is, for halacha, we say, May said if the child dies, mutter, she's allowed to get married right away. But if the baby was weaned, aser, she's prohibited. Even if the baby dies, we're not going to allow her to get married right away. Why? Maybe we have to be suspicious. If she knows that the only thing preventing her from marrying this rich fish, this rich cat, who's going to give her like summers in Italy and winters in Miami, is that she has to kill her child. Why don't we have to be concerned? She's going to kill her child. Maybe she'll kill her child and go get married. Indeed, there was an incident. There was a woman who killed her kid. The Gemara says, no, we reject this. Shotabi, that was an unusual case. That woman was insane. The women don't kill mothers don't kill their children. Yeah, sure, it happens every 20 years. You read about it in the Inquirer, But that's not what women do. That's not what women do. Tana Rabbanan, Hare Shenasnua ben Lahanik. Let's say, so since we talked about the laws of a woman who hires a nurse, a wet nurse, during the time where she's required to be nursing, the Gemara brings examples that discusses the obligations of au pairs. You hired a wet nurse. What's the law? So the Bride says, let's say you give this girl a boy to nurse. She's not allowed to also be nursing her own child, and she can't have two kids that she's nursing at the same time. Pascha, Kima, let's say they said, okay, we're going to give you this amount of money to eat because we need you to be healthy while you're nursing. Ochelas harbe. She has to take that money and eat with it. We want her to be in good health. But lo tochal imo dvarim haram l'chav, and also she's not allowed to eat while she's nursing the things that are bad for milk. So the Gemara says, Hashta b'na amra. So well, now we just said that she can't nurse her own son at the same time. Ben chaver to me by for sure she can't nurse her friend's son. Of course she can't. The Gemara says, no, you might have said, no, her son is prohibited because she's going to give her own son more because she likes him better. But Ben Chaverta, but her friend's son, she's only going to give that kid the extra. You must want to know you can't do either one. Pascha kema ochel sarbe, that if you give her a specific amount, even if you give her a specific amount, ochel sarbe, even if you give her a small amount, she still has to eat a lot. Well, mehecha, who pays for the extra? You say you have to eat 2,500 calories a day, but you only gave her money for 1,500 calories a day. So who has to pay for it? Rav Sheshes says Mishalah. No, the nurse has to pay for it because presumably you're giving her a salary. Part of that salary is a food allowance, but the salary pays for extra. So she has to feed. So she has to eat extra. You can't eat. She can't eat things that are bad for the baby to nurse. Things that are going to make him colicky. What are those things? Rav Kahana could go kashut. What's kashut? That's hops. Hops. You make the beer from it. The chaziz. This is like the small sprouts of the grains that when they're beginning to sprout. The dugim katanim. Small fish. The fish has mercury in it, so therefore they say that's bad for the nursing baby. So the adama. And she can't eat earth. She's not allowed to eat earth. It's a big thing it's a very common thing that pregnant women start eating earth because pregnant women are often iron deficient and their earth has iron in it. See? So Abaye says, afilu kara, even if it's a gourd, she can't eat. Chavusha is usually a quince. Papa Amar afilu krav, the kufra. Even gourd and also unripe dates. Rav Ashi Amar afilu kamcha v'harsina. Even she can't eat kamcha, which is like this sour milk, and harsina, which is like a fried fish, and minayu pasku, because minayu paski chalva, because if you eat them, you'll lose your milk. Minayu avichala, and some of them cause your milk to stop, and some of them will cause your milk to go sour. All right, we'll stop here. And tonight we'll review this and go on to the next stuff. Everybody should have a wonderful day.